welcome back to the Horror Junkies podcast, the podcast where we discuss all things horror, and we're having a pretty cool episode right now where we're going to actually interview people from the American Ghost Adventure, which is a local Orlando ghost tour. If you guys don't mind introducing yourselves to the show for the listeners.
Hi, my name is Robert Dead Guy Sandler, if you find me on our page. I'm one of the senior investigators with American Ghost Adventures as of 14 years.
Awesome.
Hi, I'm Rebecca. I am one of the newest investigators here at American Ghost Adventures.
Awesome. Well, it's a pleasure to guys. It's a pleasure to have you all on our podcast.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Patrick.
Hey.
This is Patrick.
Hi.
Hi.
I can't hear myself. It's so weird.
Yeah, it is weird.
This is weirder than hearing yourself.
Yeah.
But
So, just to get our the interview going, so we can get an idea. So, guys, what age did you start believing in the paranormal? Like, when did you guys start believing in ghosts and all that?
Well, for myself, it was back in my youth, somewhere between 13 and 16, living in Southern California, Simi Valley, Ventura County area, just running out, way before the internet and all this cool stuff. Just running around with our friends, reading ghost stories, urban exploring, local. There was a lot of movie ranches and things like that, places that were just rife with history and local legends, and we went out and poking around ourselves, and I saw some stuff that that probably aged me a little past my years. So
That's awesome. And I actually did a tour with you, the people I work with here in the Great Escape Room. We actually did a tour with the American Ghost Adventures, and we went and you told us some pretty cool stories. So Robert's got a lot of history under his belt when it comes to ghosts, which is awesome. It's always good to have a senior ghost investigator.
Well, when I say senior, I am not a senior. I'm only 46. I've been with the company the longest.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
I think my belief in the paranormal is very tied with what I've always wanted to do. I'm a master's student right now at UCF. I'm going for public history.
Awesome.
So museum studies and things like that, which is something I've always been interested in since I can remember. And I think at some point in any aspiring historian's life, there's a want to be Indiana Jones.
Yes,
I
exactly.
wanted to be in a museum.
Yes, Harrison Ford. Who doesn't want to be Harrison Ford?
Exactly.
And so, that idea that history and the paranormal are so connected. And when I was younger, watching the History Channel, and they had a lot of specials on ancient Egypt, and that was one of the first things that got me interested in history and the paranormal, because you hear about when the pharaoh Tutankhamun's grave was found, and then mysteriously everyone who was excavating the grave site ended up dead for some reason or another. And so it's always been, I think, part of my life.
That's awesome. That's really cool. That's weird. Definitely weird. Ghosts are pretty cool. We were talking about earlier in the ghost movies, and how every ghost story, even if they're good or bad, always has a really good mythology behind it. Like we were talking about 13 Ghosts. You guys ever seen 13 Ghosts?
Yeah.
Original or remake?
Remake.
Yes, I've seen both.
Yeah.
Both. He's seen the original. Yeah. I haven't seen the original, but the remake is good because he was talking about how what are you talking about, the bonus DVD?
Yeah, then the bonus on the DVD, there's a background for all the ghosts.
So
there's
you literally
stories
get
and stuff
the
like that.
stories of every ghost in the movie, which is kind of cool that they added their own mythology for their movie. And then we were talking about what was in the movie we talked about? They had a cool mythology behind it. Poltergeist.
Yeah, Poltergeist.
Yeah. This guy.
Funny story. In my youth and growing up, Simi Valley, California, the hills of Simi Valley is where they actually shot Poltergeist.
That's awesome.
Nice.
And I have friends that live up there. And my father was part of he was a motion picture sound and film editor, so we went to the Directors Guild and we saw films quite a bit. And we went to see a director's screening of Poltergeist, and when we came out of the theater, it was thunder and lightning and rain. We go back to our apartment, which was on the 3rd floor. My bedroom, one wall is a huge window. The people next door have a giant gnarled tree. It's thunder, it's lightning, and they had just excavated a swimming pool which is now flooded with water. Just like in the movie, and I have a big 4-poster brass bed, and I didn't have a clown thing in the corner, but I had my share of oversized stuffed animals that I was hiding from that night. So yeah,
He loved the movie in real life.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
and I'm
That's
friends.
awesome.
I'm also friends with Robbie from the movie. So
Really?
Awesome.
Oliver Robbins, one of my friends.
Awesome.
Nice.
That's actually really cool. No, now you know.
Now you know.
Now the world knows. But getting on a little more track with the interview. So we
Sorry.
no,
You're good.
This is about the show. We get on banter, we go off topic all the time. So we got a little bit of like when you guys started believing in the paranormal, but is there like a significant event that led to like the belief of the unknown? Like what was like that moment that you were like, okay, yeah, this is real. I believe this.
Let's see. That would be a little bit between the Ghostbusters movie coming out,
Yes.
and that's when I shifted from wanting to be James Bond to being a paranormal investigator.
It's just the creepy clock.
Oh, it's just the clock. I was like, what? All right. So after that movie comes out, and me and all my friends, we are going and we're investigating everything we can. I had probably one of my first cementing experiences. We were out at the Spawn Movie Ranch. Look it up. It's in Southern California. They shot a lot of old Western things there. And we're out there playing laser tag. So back when laser tag was new and it was giant rifles and everything. And we're out there, and there is a hilly valley area, and we knew that the rival team we're playing against, they had one of their guys had night vision goggles, the kind where in the dark you can see the the red eyes and everything.
That's so awesome.
And I'm up on one ridge, and I'm looking down the valley at all the other players, and then I see another individual standing on the opposite side of the ridge, where you only have one side that you can come up, and the only other side is a outlook with a really steep incline. And I see this guy over there, and I think, all right, that's the other leader of the team. And I kind of give a wave and like a salute, because we're playing the military thing, and it looks right at me with the red eyes and acknowledges me, and then drops to all fours and runs headfirst down the steep incline like some sort of animal. And that's when I sort of called my evening for the night and said, I just saw something that I cannot explain what the hell it is. And then I started really getting into, the research and trying to find out everything I could.
That's
Nice.
I'd be terrified if I was in
Yeah,
that already
if
playing
that was me,
laser
I would
tag.
be.
I'd be like, nope, not for
Mm-mm.
me.
Yep.
Bye. Rebecca, you?
A little more somber answer. Like I said, I think this belief of the unknown for me has been a part of my life for a long time, but something that, happened in the last couple of years that really made me believe, I think it more just like re-cemented the idea in my head that this is something that I believe in is in 2015, my friend passed away very unexpectedly, and it was someone I went to undergrad with, and we had already graduated, but she was a semester behind us, and a few of us drove to St. Pete to see her. She was an organ donor, so they kept her alive until they could do the surgeries to donate her organs, whatever they could get. And we had to say goodbye to her, kind of very not in a way we would have ever thought we would. And we had a Facebook chat going for a long time of just like being able to mourn with each other and things like that. And one of my friends had brought up once like, oh, I had this like really weird dream the other night, and it was bizarre. It was like me and our friend, and we were just the friend who had passed away, and we were just baking cookies, and at the end of it she hugged me and said like, I have to go now, goodbye. And one by one, most of us in the chat had said, well, that like exact same dream of just like different, not all like baking something, but that exact same like theme of her saying goodbye to us had happened to a lot of us. And I think some people could say, well, that's probably your brain trying to cope with the tragedy, but for me, I'd like to think that it was her coming to all of us and saying goodbye. So
That's pretty interesting. I mean, like what adds to it, it wasn't just one of you. It was
Yeah,
multiple
multiple.
of you having some sort of dream that involved her saying goodbye.
Yeah.
Like, which is kind of like, I would think that was her coming to say, you know, goodbye. That's, you know, it's a tragedy and things like that.
Yeah, and specifically saying like I have to go now.
Yeah,
and stuff like that.
exactly. Yeah, that's
It's like bizarre that it happened to
exactly
so many of us.
But Patrick, you got anything you want to share? Like, when did you start believing in the paranormal, man?
Oh, when I started, very young. I was like maybe 5-6 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and this was back in the Poconos in Pennsylvania.
Yes.
Like a lot of stuff would happen in that our house, which was weird because it was like a new built house.
Mm-hmm.
Like no one lived there previously or anything like that. But weird stuff only happened to like me. Nothing happened to my parents or my sister or my brother or anything like that. It was always me. Like just waking up, like typical, like, you know, like the blanket pulled type of stuff. Seeing like family, like old family members that are dead, like looking at the closet, waking up and seeing them, like their face, like clear as day. Like still happens to this day too.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was a teenager, I messed around with a bunch of Ouija boards, like stuff like that. So,
Same. It's okay.
Yeah,
we all
like-
been there.
yeah, exactly. Just angsty stuff.
Yeah.
So
Same
yeah,
with me.
like
Somebody I dated had one of those. It was from his parents. Had one of the Ouija boards that was made by Hasbro or whoever made it. It
Oh,
was
yeah.
so
Yes.
bizarre, like from like the 50s or 60s, and it had like little kids like, "Oh, ask about your future." And
Exactly.
it's
It's
so
just like-
like eerie.
Contact the dead. We want
Yeah.
you to contact. I had the same. I played with a Ouija board when I was in my teenage years, and I had a weird like occurrence happen to me with, you know, a girl I was talking to and whatnot. But what like really got me to start believing was when I came home that night. It always felt like someone was like watching me. Like I'd go to bed, turn the lights off, and it felt like something was like over me. I felt like this constant pressure on my chest, and I was just like, what is this? Like, what is going on? I mean, it started as soon as we started messing with that Ouija board, and it happened for like a week and a half, and finally, you know, whatever it was, when I moved out, left me alone. But that's definitely when I started. Like, I always had like suspicion I believed in ghosts because I've always like seen things out of the corner of my eyes or heard things in the night. But definitely the like something being there, and you know when like you're uneasy at night when you're trying to go to sleep because you know something's just like, you know, what is it? And I always felt uncomfortable with the lights off, and that was like never for me. Like, I'm fine in the dark by myself, but no, when I started being uncomfortable in the dark, then I knew something was going on. So I started believing more into the paranormal than I did.
oh yeah.
But so what made you guys want to be like what made you want to be a paranormal investigator? Like, what made you what pulled you to this job?
Besides the Craigslist ad.
Besides the Craigslist ad.
I mean, like I said, I'm a master's student
Mhm.
going for public history, and for a lot of people, history is very boring and dry. And for a lot of years, it was this very like only intellectuals could get into it. You know, museums used to be like super boring and just like factual, just like to the point, and you know, not really like going for the common person. But in the past like 40-50 years,
Yeah.
museum studies has tried to bring people into history a lot more. You know, museums are now way more interactive.
Yeah.
And they're way more, a lot of museums are focusing more on local history. You know, it's not like just great leaders and
Yeah,
big world
exactly.
events. It's like you know, your city, your town, whatever.
Like the Orlando
Yeah,
History Center, where
yeah.
it focuses on like Central Florida history.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think like what better way to get in touch with your past, especially if you're from Orlando, than like getting in contact with people who lived it. And what better
Exactly.
way to remember, you know, the history we tell you than like with a sort of tour like this. So I
Yeah.
just love, you know, it combines both of like, you know, my great loves of history and the paranormal.
Exactly.
So
That's cool. I agree. Exactly. How about you, Robert?
Yeah, well, it goes back to the Ghostbusters movie. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, it gave people could be paranormal investigators, and I thought that was, you know, that's what I really wanted to be.
That's a
And
job. Like
yeah, it's like,
This is a job. I can do this for a
you can
living?
go to school, you can do this for a living, or there's some people that can do it without. And then all the TV shows started coming out, and I thought that would be, you know,
It's
it
funny.
brought
We
me.
talked about that on the show.
It
earlier.
brought me back again. Oh yeah, well then I'm looking through the Craigslist, and back in 2003, I saw an ad, Ghost Tour Guides Wanted. And I thought, I was born for this.
Nice.
And I answered the ad, and I didn't know how serious or not serious it would be. And it turned out that there was kind of an interview where you, and a trial run where they had to come and interview you and see what kind of person you were. Everybody at American Ghost Adventures has some sort of affinity or natural ability, and they take you through a trial run tour where basically you go on a tour, you're comped, you're watched, we see how you interact with everybody and how you are, and those that show promise get the job, and I showed apparently a lot of promise because I'm still here after 14 years. So yeah.
Awesome.
And
That's cool.
Robert actually was the one leading my interview tour.
Awesome. It's cool that you stuck around. Like that's awesome that you found something that you loved it and you stuck with it for so long. It's cool. And the stories you must have.
I make a living off the dead. So
There you go.
Exactly.
So how do you guys feel about the TV shows, like when Sci-Fi Channel started like shitting out those like
Ghost
those-
Adventures, Ghost Hunters.
Yeah.
some of them, I mean, I enjoyed TAPS because
Yes,
if it
TAPS
wasn't
was-
for TAPS, the Atlanta Paranormal Society, we wouldn't have a lot of the equipment that we take for granted that we use for ghost hunting now. I mean, they were plumbers and electricians using their equipment to ghost hunt. I mean, the one of the standard ghost hunting tools, the EMF detector. We use the
I've never seen this live before.
we use the
He's so happy right
I've
now.
only seen this in television.
the ones that they started out with were basically what was it, stud finders and electronic detectors to find where all the electrical grids were, so you didn't put a hammer through a wall and blow yourself up. But they started playing with them, and then they started experimenting and making them better and more specific for this kind of work.
Wow, that's cool.
And yeah, they were great. Ghost Adventures with Zach and all them.
They used to be good, I think. Like
They, my particular opinion is that the first season was trying to get ratings, and then when they
Yeah.
got ratings and they got a full show, then they got serious.
yeah,
So,
like now I feel like they kind of like went crazy, like because like now they're like what 6 seasons, 7 seasons to the show now. Like you can kind of tell like it's like, is it for TV or is you guys for real now? Because they do a lot of weird things now. I'm just like, man,
It's kind of
Stop
like
jumping over fences.
how shows start. Like one example is like Desperate Housewives starts off as this like cheesy like household drama, and then by season 4 there's like people dying everywhere. Like it becomes like such a parody of itself. And,
wait, Patrick, do you know about this?
Oh yeah.
Oh, dude, yes. That's funny.
so it's
is my shit.
it's tricky. There are so many of those shows, and it's competition and getting people's attention and
Yeah.
keeping their attention.
Exactly.
It's a niche, and there's a lot of competition.
Yeah,
Yeah.
When with our company, our name American Ghost Adventures, for about a year I was answering the phone, and it's when the Ghost Adventure show was so big, and I would field calls in the middle of the night of some 12-year-old kid trying to call Zach, and I'd have to
Yes.
explain, we are not affiliated with the television show, and even if we are, these shows do not put out their phone numbers online so you can just call them up. We directed them to the fan site.
Yeah.
And occasionally we'd even get calls from a farmer in the Midwest that wanted to bring our group out to investigate their farmhouse. And I explained to them who we are and that we're not the TV show. And he said, still, come on out. We'll put you up in our house or whatever. But yeah, we get
Weird
so much
stuff.
weird attention like that.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's
but it's
publicity,
still
so
good. It's still
from
it's still
PR.
publicity.
Issa, what are you hearing back there? What do you got going on back there? I keep seeing your face. What are you hearing? Oh. Yes! That's normal. This is built in the 1920s.
I cannot wait.
But just so we can kind of go, are there any places you guys have investigated that you will not go back? Like, there's a place like you just will not go back anymore? Oops, sorry.
Yours first, because mine's got to take longer.
Man, it's so. I really feel like there's nowhere on this tour specifically of places that we've gone that I would feel everywhere we've investigated, I feel definitely safe. And even, it is scary. It is kind of spooky when setting up alone in Harry Buffalo's. Like, I always like put on a podcast and just like run through the hallway and set everything up. But other than that, I mean, I didn't do a lot of, I've never done a lot of like on my own investigation, mostly because something else we like to say on the tour is the living are more sometimes scarier than the dead. So abandoned buildings and things like that.
Oh yeah, exactly.
I'm
yeah.
like,
you always risk running into the homeless people. Yeah.
So
myself personally, there was a place that we investigated as that we were doing some group investigations, but the place still kind of terrifies me. But I will never get to go back there again because the building doesn't exist anymore. Down in St. Pete, there was a place called the Bellevue Biltmore Resort and Spa, and it was, in its time, the largest still occupied wooden structure in the world. I mean, you could see this thing from the International Space Station when it went over. Wow. It was where the ultra-rich went on their vacations. The only way down to it originally used to be by private train, and they had their own wheelhouse on the property for them to store their trains and everything. And the fourth and fifth floors were completely haunted, and they were currently under forever renovation. Gaping holes in the floors, just all sorts of dead elevator shaft drops, and yes. It was really, really creepy up there. And I stayed there, and but there was one sighting that some people saw, a child up in one of the upper floors, in the abandoned floors, looking at the windows. And I just remember a night that I got to be out in the swimming pool, big giant swimming pool, and I'm out there by myself, and there's like nobody else around, and I swear I saw that kid looking down at me out of a window. And I have not actually told this to anybody on the tour or with the company or anything. It's just this situation that's bringing it back to mind. But it just
Horror Junkies exclusive.
Yeah. It's someplace that, well, I'll never have to go back there again because they demoed the entire site and they sold everything off. And luckily, I just don't have to go back to that place ever again. So,
man. Well, I'd be scared. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm out alone. You think you're alone. All of a sudden, you see this kid staring down at you. I mean, that's pretty terrifying. She's staring at me. Our studio manager's staring at me.
I'm signing off.
Creepy stuff.
Patrick's signing off. He's
yeah,
apparently. But real quick, we'll finish up our interview. The last question: any advice to the novice paranormal investigators such as ourselves that like to investigate the things that go bump in the night?
You first.
Well, I am a novice investigator, so
excellent.
But the things I've learned doing tours is, I think the biggest advice I have is to be respectful. Like going back to the question about how do you feel about a lot of those ghost shows, and a lot of them, the ones that are just wanting ratings do ask, go into places being disrespectful and asking like jarring questions, and because they want reactions.
Exactly.
And they're gonna get bad ones if they do, but of course it's good TV.
Exactly.
And we occasionally have people who come on the tour thinking that that's what we do, and we run tours every night and have done so for years, so we don't want any hostility. So
yeah.
I think the biggest advice I have is ask respectful questions, and don't try to instigate events to happen, because I don't think anything good can come of that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I've never been one to like go and like, oh, let's try to bring out the most negative energy we can find in a building, because you don't want to mess with it. You don't know, people don't know what they're messing with.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially if you're just like, oh, I watch TV shows and I think I could do this because I have an infrared camera and a recorder. I mean, there's things that we don't really understand or really know much about, and if you go messing with some bad things are probably going to happen to you. But Robert, what about you? What kind of advice do you have? 14 years of experience you give someone in the beginning.
All right. Well, it boils down to common sense. And the one I can't, enforce enough on this. Do not ever go ghost hunting by yourself. Always bring at least 2 or 3 friends with you, because the living are more dangerous than the dead. You don't know what the dead are going to do, but the living, you can pretty much guess. If you run across somebody that's squatting somewhere in an abandoned building, who knows what they're going to do.
Yeah.
2, don't trespass, because it gets you in trouble. It could be dangerous. The worst could possibly happen. If you're a new ghost hunter, if you're new to this, find a group that does this. Find a group of amateurs. Find a club.
Yeah.
Find a new ghost hunting company that's looking for new blood.
Yeah.
Go and join some people that have experience with this.
Yeah.
And it boils down to the end. Be respectful of everyone and everything you come across. Be respectful of the properties. Be respectful of the people that own those properties, and be respectful of the dead. You go to a cemetery, be respectful. You see things turned over. Try to leave every place better than you found it. But
Yeah. All right.
it's all common sense.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I mean, don't go messing up things that you shouldn't be messing up with, and it just goes back to like you said, common sense. You shouldn't go to a graveyard and turn over tombstones and things. I mean, that's just disrespectful to the family and the person who's laying in the ground.
Oh, and one little thing to add to that: if you're really serious about the ghost hunting and trying, not just going and checking out one to see, if you want to really try to test your abilities, when you go online and you look up a place and you're reading everybody else's experiences, don't, because your mind can play tricks on you.
Exactly.
You want to go in cold and have your own experiences.
Exactly.
So,
but I think that's it for our little interview. Thank you guys so much, Robert, Rebecca, for joining us on the Horror Junkies podcast. For those of you that are listening, they are in your local. They are the American Ghost Adventures. They do local tours here. You guys do the pub tour, right? Where you guys just go to the bars.
we have a haunted pub tour, which is ghost stories, drinks, and we take you to locations.
Fun.
We also have our standard ghost tour, which we can pretty much book every night in Orlando, but we also have other satellite locations that are available upon request, like the Lakeside Inn in Mount Dora, Melbourne, Winter Garden. Check our website. And for the really hardcore paranormal enthusiast, we have the Ultimate Tour, which is a 4-hour investigational tour with all the best equipment that we have, a lot of experimental equipment, which is pretty much hardcore, hanging out wherever we have access to, that as long as you want to be there, because it's your dime, with using all of our equipment. And it's kind of like the TV shows where we set up camp somewhere, and if we get activity, we'll stay there as long as you like, up to the time limit, of course. And we have special events. We just did New Orleans. This year we're maybe looking at heading down to Key West.
Awesome.
So just keep on our website, www.americanghostadventures.com.
So excellent. Definitely check them out if you're interested in some ghost tours, if you're local. If not, maybe you can have a satellite location near you in the surrounding Florida area. But for that's it, guys. Like I said, thank you so much for doing this for us. We're about to go talk to some ghosts, hopefully, see if we can get some activity tonight. As usual, I'm Mike for the Horror Junkies podcast. Stay weird.